that is working capital. See, as we know, for the business, two types of capital is there. Number one, that is fixed capital, and number two is working capital. So both point is there in this particular chapter. So first of all, we have to discuss about working capital, and then after we have to discuss over here fixed capital, and in last the difference between both is there. Okay, so this one that we have to discuss over here. So first of all, that is working capital. So let us start. Meaning and definition: fixed capital and working capital are required in all types of business. Fixed capital is required to purchase fixed assets such as land, building, machineries, etc. While working capital is required to pay day-to-day expenses. So as we know, two types of capital is there: working capital as well as fixed capital. Fixed capital that we have to use to purchase fixed assets, and working capital that we have to use to pay the day-to-day expenses. Okay, next one. Working capital is generally employed in current assets of the business such as raw material, debtors, bills receivable, etc. It remains constantly circulating in the business. Therefore, working capital is called lifeblood because it's a circulating. It is not fixed, and that's why it's called working capital. So it is a running capital. Okay, it's changeable. Next one, that is definitions. So various types of author given the definition of working capital. So let's see. Number one, according to Lincoln, Juris and Stevens, working capital is excess of current assets over current liabilities. Okay, so in simple term, what do you mean by working capital? So three authors that they are giving combined definition. Working capital is over of current assets of current liability. It means that if you want to find out the working capital, what is the formula? So here that working capital is equal to current assets minus current liability. Okay, so if we are deducting current liability from current assets, we get the working capital. Next one, according to J.S. Mill, the sum of the total assets means the working capital. So different author and they are giving working capital is equal to current assets. So two different types of author gives two different types of definition of working capital. Next one, concept of working capital. So two types of concept is there. Number one, that is gross working capital, okay, and second one, that is net working capital, okay. So two types of working capital is there. So first one, that is gross working capital, and second one, that is net working capital. So we have to discuss two topics. Working capital means sum of total investment in current assets of the business such as stock of raw material and finished goods, debtors, bill receivable, short-term security, etc. So in short, gross working capital is equal to working capital is equal to all current assets. Okay, so here formula is that gross working capital is equal to total current assets. So the value of total of current assets is equal to working capital. Then we can see that it is which type of capital? Gross working capital. Next one, net working capital. So here net working capital is equal to, net working capital means current assets means current liability minus current liability. So here net working capital, so working capital is equal to current assets minus current liability. So here that we can say that it's a net working capital. Okay, so important aspects is that gross working capital is equal to current assets, total current assets. And net working capital, how we can find out the net working capital? So here net working capital is equal to current assets minus current liability. Okay, so these two types of working capital is there. Next one, difference between gross working capital and net working capital. Okay, so here that working capital, the next topic is difference. So here difference between gross working capital as well as net working capital. Okay, so whatever we discussed, that is gross working capital and net working capital, we have to study the difference between both gross working capital as well as net working capital. So let's see number one, that is meaning. So four types is there, 4 points are there, those who are included in this particular difference. Number one, that is meaning. Gross working capital means sum total of current assets such as bill receivable, debtors, short-term marketable securities, bank balance and cash. So here that we can say that gross working capital is equal to total current assets. Another net working capital meaning. Net working capital means current assets minus current liability. So here current asset minus current liability. So this is the first part. This is the meaning. Next, number two, liquidity position. So this concept does not indicate the liquidity position of the company because here only current assets are included. Okay, so with the help of only current assets, we cannot assume what are the situation of the company. Actually, situation of the company we cannot measure. But here, net working capital, it shows the exactly position because we are deduct current liability from current assets. Okay, so let's see. This concept indicates liquidity position of the company. So instead of gross working capital, net working capital is more reliable. Next, number three, financial position and measurement. So here does not give the true idea of the financial position of the company. Why? Because only we are considering current assets. There is no declaration of current liability over here. And with the help of only current assets, we cannot assume that what is the actual situation. Next one, give the true idea of the financial position of the company because we are making net, because we are deducting current liability from the current assets. So net actual situation that we got. Next one, increase in current liability. Increase in current liability increase the gross working capital. So here current liability is increased, gross working capital also increase. But increase in current liability does not increase in net working capital because if liability increases, definitely current assets is decreases. But here liability decreases, there is no change in current assets. Okay, so here that increase in current liability here in net working capital affect the working capital, and in particular gross working capital there is no effect. Okay, so this fourth point is that those who are included in different points which shows the difference between gross working capital as well as net working capital. How many points is there? 4. Number 1, meaning. Number 2, liquidity position. Number 3, financial position and measurement. And number 4, increase in current liabilities. So this is all about difference between gross working capital as well as net working capital. Next one, that is characteristics. Okay, so here that is characteristics of working capital. Okay, so different types of characteristics is there. So here 8 characteristics is there which shows the what is the working capital. Okay, so number 1, short term capital. So working capital is short term because it is used in generally that we can measure with the help of current assets. As we know, the time period of current assets is 1 year. Okay, so here short term capital is that. Let's see, working capital is a short term capital. We are using it for day to day expenses, and that's why we can say that it's a short-term capital. Next, number 2, that is investment in current assets. Okay, so investment in current assets. Generally, what we are doing, we are using working capital in current assets such as raw material, debtors, bill receivable, cash, bank, stock, etc. Okay, let's see. In working capital, debtors, bill receivable, short-term securities are included in the current assets. Next, number 3, liquidity. Okay, so here liquidity. Okay, so here with the help of current working capital, we get the liquidity position. How much cash, how much current assets that we have on our hand. Okay, let's see. Liquidity is the base feature of working capital, basic feature of working capital. All the current assets in which working capital is employed are converted into cash easily, because as we know, what is the time period of working capital? One year or less than 1 year. Current assets. Okay, so what is the current asset? That is time period is less than 1 year. So time period is less than 1 year. So liquidity position is that. Okay, and it's always changeable. Okay, working capital is never same. Fixed capital is same. Then next, number 4, less risk. Okay, so here in comparison of long-term capital, okay, in comparison of long-term or fixed capital, there is less risk because it's always changeable. Okay, and in time period is less than 1 year. Okay, let's see. Working capital circulates for the short term and it is convertible into cash easily. So the element of risk is less because easily we can convert working capital into cash. Okay, because working capital is invested in which assets? Current assets. And current assets that we can easily convert it into cash. For example, debtors we can easily, investment, stock, okay, bills receivable, easily we can convert in cash. Next, number 5, changing form. Okay, so it's a changing form, as I discussed earlier, that working capital is always changeable, always change, because it's never same. We are using for day-to-day expenses. We are investing in current assets, and that's why we can say that it is a changeable form. It's changed every day, every time. It's a change. Okay, so let's see. The form of constantly changing in which working capital is employed, that is raw material converted into semi-finished goods and further into finished goods. Finished goods is converted into debtors if it is sold in credit into cash and sold on cash basis. So one circular is there, that is first of all, that is raw material change into semi-finished goods. Okay, so here semi-finished goods, then finished goods. Okay, finished goods, then it is sold 2 times, cash or credit. Okay, if we are selling in cash, so definitely we got cash on our hand. If we are selling in credit, so our debtors is there, and after the period of time, ultimately we get cash. So it is changeable. First of all, raw material, semi-finished goods, then finished goods, then cash, or in credit that is debtors. After all, it is converted into cash, and that cash we are again used in raw material. Okay, so it's a changeable form, and one cycle is there. Okay. Next, number 5, pay day-to-day expenses. Okay, so here pay day-to-day expenses. So here we can say that working capital that we are using for pay day-to-day expenses. Okay, let's see. Working capital is required constantly to pay day-to-day expenses. Whatever our day-to-day expenses is there, for payment of that expenses we are using working capital. Number 7, no depreciation. So here then we can see that no depreciation, because this is not a fixed capital. Fixed capital we are using for fixed assets, and fixed asset we are charging depreciation. Okay, but here working capital we are using in current assets. Time period is less than 1 year, so definitely we are not using assets for the longer period of time. And again that we can see it's always in a changing form. Okay, so we are not calculating depreciation on it. Let's see. Depreciation is not calculated due to circulating capital into business and its form is constantly changes. Okay, so constantly it is changes, and that's why we are not considered over here. And last number 8, requirement according to type and form of business. Okay, so here requirement according to types and form of business. Okay, so here as we discussed, if our business is only trading, working capital is more required. Our business is product producing, then more fixed capital is required. Okay, then form and type, which type of business that we have. If we are doing wholesaler business, then more money is required. If we are doing retail business, less money is required. So definitely on the basis of which type of business that you have, on the basis of that you have to take the decision that how many requirement of working capital is there in your business. Okay, so what we learn in today's particular lecture, that we learn two things. Number one, working capital. Two types is there: gross working capital, net working capital.